The old Citroen Berlingo Multispace was a stroke of genius, converting a van into low-budget family transport. With the second generation model, Citroen has tried a different tack, distancing the Berlingo Multispace from its commercial origins. More sophisticated and lifestyle it may now be, but has a degree of charm been lost in the process? Let's see.
The perfect family car is a bit like the perfect family house. It's something that immediately you enter, you feel comfortable in. And an awful lot of people felt comfortable in the first generation version of this car, Citroen's Berlingo Multispace. It outsold all of its rivals combined, racking up over 1 million sales. This Multispace variant even outselling the van version. In many ways, it's a modern day interpretation of Citroen's post-War II CV. Owning a vehicle that you could hose clean inside and give the most frightful leathering to was an experience that really endeared itself to many. I think there's something uniquely French about battering a vehicle half to death and then passing it on as a family heirloom. And the first generation Berlingo Multispace accepted this role with good grace. The second generation version, however, changes things quite dramatically. The first thing to say is that this handles far more like a car than a van these days, though it still isn't a car designed to please the driving enthusiast, nor should it be. It's based on Citroen's avant-garde C4 Picasso Mini MPV, which means that it handles much better than its predecessor with a lot less roll on twisty roads. As with the old Berlingo Multispace, all-round visibility is really excellent, making this a great companion in urban areas. The suspension improvements, you really notice them on twisting B-roads like this one, where the vehicle just flows across the surface, removing the experience offered up by the old model of crashing from one pothole to the next. Engine-wise, well, I'm driving the 1.6 litre HDI 110 diesel here, which manages 0 to 60 in around 12 seconds or so, and a top speed of just over 100 miles an hour. And quite frankly, if you want to go much faster than that in a vehicle of this sort, then there's something wrong with you. Stopping wise, there are 4 disc brakes with ABS, there's electronic brake force distribution, EBFD, there's emergency brake assist, which helps you with the brake pedal pressure during an emergency stop, and there's quite a clever system that Citroen have got that slams on the hazard flashes during an emergency braking situation. It isn't only the C4 Picasso chassis that this Berlingo Multispace shares to get away from its commercial roots. There are a number of C4 Picasso cues in the exterior design, and it's a very assured piece of styling for a vehicle that is by necessity very tall and boxy. Still, the Berlingo still hasn't forgotten its need to be practical with a longer wheelbase and more interior room. In fact, it's a whopping 24 centimetres longer, and there's 3,000 litres of load space in the back here, with all the seats out and just the 2 in the front. That's enough for 4 washing machines. With all the seats in place, there's 675 litres. The ability to adapt to many different uses is a key requirement with this sort of vehicle. The car is supplied as standard with a 3-person bench rear seat that can be folded 2/3, 1/3 or removed completely. But there's also the option that I've gone for here of 3 individual folding, reclining and removable individual seats, and the centre one of which can be folded down to create a picnic table with drinks holders here. You've also got these airline style trays built into the back of the front driver and passenger seats. Citroen hasn't spared on using every trick in its armoury to improve day-to-day utility. There are options like a clever overhead storage galley for long items like skis and an opening rear tailgate window. Plus there's a modular centre storage box which you can take out for picnics and things, and this folding front seat if you're transporting something like a bicycle and need the extra length. Prices aren't quite as low as were offered with the original version of this car, but in life you tend to get what you don't pay for. Most Berlingo Multispace models will now be priced in the £11,000 to £15,000 bracket. All the engines available are 1.6 litre units, 90 or 110 brake horsepower if you go for a petrol, or 75, 90 or 110 brake horsepower if you want a diesel. Equipment highlights include a scented air freshener, parking distance control, speed limiter for urban areas. You've got steering wheel mounted audio controls, and also this very clever rechargeable torch that sits in the boot. There's also a flagship XTR model that features a sort of rugged go-anywhere look. It's still only front-wheel drive like the rest of the range, but an increased ride height and side rubbing strips mean that it'll go places that a normal Berlingo Multispace would struggle to reach. With two-tone bumpers, black body sections and tinted rear windows, it's even a bit of a looker, something that we never thought we'd say about a Berlingo Multispace. The old model made its name on being proper econo basics transport that extracted the least possible from the family purse in terms of day-to-day running costs. And in some ways, the modern-day Berlingo Multispace continues that tradition. Though it might cost more to buy in the first instance, the march of technology means that it doesn't actually cost that much more to run. Efficient engines, low insurance costs and reduced emissions see to that. You can expect to average around 50 miles to the gallon on a regular basis at the wheel of the 1.6 litre HDI diesel model that I'm driving here, the version that most owners will probably specify, all the while putting no more than around 150 grams per kilometre of CO2 into the atmosphere. Depreciation, well, that won't be as much of an issue as it would be if you'd stumped up another £3,000 for a Citroen C4 Picasso model, which in 5-seat form is no more than this car in a different set of clothes. That's assuming, of course, you take advantage of Citroen dealers' legendary willingness to do great upfront deals. The old Citroen Berlingo Multispace was a car that was enormously endearing. Like a faithful family hound, it wasn't flashy, could be a little agricultural in its manners, but would never let you down. Now, the latest version adds a bit of pedigree to the breed, and in doing so changes the rules quite significantly. It's now positioning itself as a desirable family accoutrement. It's got style, it's got some high-tech features, both radical departures. Compared to the old Berlingo model, the new one certainly has a more cultured look with its smoothly chamfered styling, its flared wheel arches and its more modern interior. It's also, by almost any count you could conjure up, a better vehicle, safer too, which is important in a family car. But will it be more successful? Well, 1 million sales is a lot to beat. Still, it's hard to see how Citroen could have come up with a more fitting replacement for a modern day legend.